People often ask me why I chose the Aloha. The message is simple. There was a time when our kupuna were discouraged from using their language, but that time has passed. Now it's the time for us to be vocal. Speak the Hawaiian words you know. Use the language you've learned, and always strive to speak the way our kupuna did. Just like the Aloha, we have a voice.
This is not where I started learning Hawaiian, but it's a very significant milestone. I come back here fairly often, and I always have, good memories about this place. This is really where I learned how to speak Hawaiian. So, I knew some things beforehand, but not a whole lot. So I had, teachers, and there was friends here, and I would work here, and there was always some kind of opportunity to learn. A lot of it happened right here at Halea'o, or at the Mala over there, which we'll probably take a look at. But it's always good to come back and to remember how it all began.
Kua hele ana I ke kore ni noho mau wau me ko maho aloha mai ka mau kumu mai ko mea ka mako kumu o Kalawea o me ia mako na mea hanai o ka kukuru pa o ka waere na ere o ka oki mau o ka kanukalo o na ana mea rike ole. A lot of good lessons were learned right here. A lot of things that were specific to the work we would do. So I was a student, but I also had a job here, and Kalawea was the man, teach us all kinds of stuff. Me and Ula, 2 student workers. We'll take a look at some of these stone walls. Some of them I, helped build. Other ones were here before I got here. Another thing was this hale. It was already here before I, came, but some of the wood we had to repaint. So we would learn words like pena for paint and hamoka pena iru no kalau. Naki'i, you'll see lashing on some of the wood and stuff like that. And naki'i was probably the first word I learned for tying, and later, I learned there's a lot of different variations. But yeah, naki'i ke mola au apa'a, things like that. We built a lot of stone, we moved a lot of stone, so there was a lot of terms and phrases that would be used for that. Awako nana ke papohaku ni na makono kukuru ko ke ia pohaku kihi oluna na o wa lawe ia ai ra ia ke pohaku kawakuru no ho kai pohaku ki me ke irua a palalaha ka wala ia pe ara aka ni no o nana ua pa ano pa ki pani.
I think one of the most important things too was the back and forth of questions and responses, like learning how to ask a question, learning how to respond to it. So some walls were here and this hale was here, so I would think how do you ask this question? And it would be like, nawai I kukuru ike hale. And the response would come, na Kalawea me ako palaliserensi ma, apehe kukuru ai papohaku. E honono ke mo pohaku nui kukuru ki kai mo pohaku iru na ho maua ko me kera pa ke paia ka mahape roano ke mo pukupuka ho pupi ke pa pukupuka me na pohaku riri pa pono na ke pa things like that. I'm just riffing here, but those were kind of some of the interactions and things that I got to learn. Like they say, the old Hawaiian phrase, makahanaka ike. So there's a lot of contextual learning that I got right here for probably like a year. A really good training ground.
Kome mamakeia o ka awa parala huri me yana. Ia. Me kena aka hari kupono ke ini. Me kera no paha. Oia ka mea hanai, aka are pa. Kia mea ho iki wale no. Na ka mea ne no, ku ia me kera, ha uri ana I raro. Aka meke I no ka hana ama ko, he hanai, kia na. Nero ako puka, ho piha. Another good teacher was Tutikana Here. She had a lot of patience with me. When I first met her, obviously I was a little bit starstruck because anybody learning Hawaiian should know who Tutikana Here is. She did a lot for the language. She's still doing a lot for the English, still teaching. And I remember when I first met her, I just asked her, "Don't speak any English to me, just speak Hawaiian." She was like, "Yeah, can." So I would just like tend to the grounds here. So over here used to have a big pile of mulch, and that's how I learned the word kipulu, and ho'ohuri ka kipulu, which was like to turn it or whatever, I don't know how you translate that. But another thing was I would always kind of forget stuff too, or things would fly over my head because she would talk really fast. I thought I was ready, not quite. So she would say stuff like, "Lawi kiki we o kera hare ma'o, lawi me kiki puku me kapala o wari ano kara bo mani ini ke pau kera o ki mau o ma'o." And I was like, okay. And I knew she gave me the key, so I knew I had to go open that up. And then I would sit there and I go, I know it's shovel. I grab the shovel. At the other thing, I don't know, so I had to go back. And she go like, I was like, yeah, kiki puku. Oh, yeah, a pickaxe. Oi. And then oftentimes if I didn't get it, she would have to explain it again. And that's something I really appreciated from her, and I think I took as a teacher nowadays is, you know, be patient with your students. Sometimes you'll have to repeat, sometimes you'll have to reiterate. And if you have good students and they're putting in the time, then you won't have to repeat it too many times and they'll get it. Here aku ohi mau pohaku alawi mai nini ana ka pohaku irara okara kahe nui ka hou ke here a vera ro ko mai ro ki hari no ho I ka malu okari ha pai no I ki pohaku ni kupuna na ka mikini no I ho ne ki ni na ha pai ki kira wa ano nui no I ke ka ke mo ano vi mina I guess that was a really formative experience for me, of just that functional everyday ask questions, respond. And outside of work, we would ask questions about family, and I would ask questions about cultural practices and things that she knew, all kinds of stuff. And that's how I really started to develop relationships with people in the language. So officially, me and my wife started learning Hawaiian in 2016 before we had kids. The idea was we're gonna learn enough Hawaiian before our kids come, and that's how they'll get the language. That was the plan. So we had books and stuff, and we learned how to talk very slowly and not very good, but we could get by. And then when I wanted to come to Windward, I wanted to take Hawaiian 101 because I needed more instruction. And I was already past the 101 level according to teachers, so they said just wait till 102. And then while I was here working, as you've kind of been able to listen, I passed the 102 level, and they told me, you know, what you should do is take the placement test at UH Manoa, and that's where they'll be able to, you know, help you with what you need, and there'll be more people that you can talk Hawaiian to. So we're gonna take a trip over there, and I'll show you and talk to you a little bit about my journey as it continued. So we made it. We're here at UH Manoa. It's been a while since I've been back here, specifically to this area. My first experience, I guess, here with the language was I took the placement test, Hawaiian language placement test. After I took it, they emailed me back saying, we think you should be in 401. And I thought there's gotta be a mistake, because I've taken no classes at that point. And so I don't think I emailed, I think I just showed up at a professor's office, knocked on the door, and we had a conversation. And I think I asked something like, 401. Yeah. And they explained, yeah, we looked through your test, it was all good. You definitely should be in 401. Why? Is there a problem? And I was like, I've never taken a class before. I just thought there was probably a mistake. I shouldn't be at a 401. I was thinking, if anything, 300 at the highest. So that was my initial, experience with getting into UH Manoa, and 401 became my first official Hawaiian language class. Although I was fluent when I came here, that didn't mean that I was very accurate, and it meant that I wasn't, the best speaker. So I could speak at a good pace, but grammatically and the order of which I would say things was a little bit hamajang at times. So it was no surprise that I got my first few assignments back, my written assignments. And that led me to go to the teacher and go like, a lot of the times there would already be a little note of hui kau ke ia, a'ali I keika ke ia. Things like that. Like, no, it's not a strong thing to say, or it's incomplete, or what are you saying? So although I could piece things together, when it came to like delivering a full message or a full concept that made sense, that was very difficult for me. But also, a lot of times it was just a word order, where in speech there are rules you can break, but when you write a paper like that, it's got to have structure, it's got to have standards. So I got some good hard lessons right here. UH Manoa. Makera kuro kawai huerani. I was also very fortunate to get a job at Kawai Huerani, which was the Center of Hawaiian Language here at UH Manoa, and that also meant that I got some quality time with Ipo Wang, a native from Ni'ihau. And when she would allow me to, I would go into her office and ask her questions, and I'd have a list of things, things that I needed for everyday, functional Hawaiian for my wife and my kids at home. One was, if they're on like my school paper and I need the baby to like get off of it, how do I say get off? And I couldn't figure it out, looked in the dictionary, what is the word to get off of something? Ones that I found weren't really working. And she gave me some of the most simple but profound things to say, which would be like, oh, here makai e, or just ne'e aku, or ne'e mai, or depending on where you want the baby to go. And I was like, wow. So those really functional everyday things were really helpful for me. But a lot of times too, she would eat lunch with us and she would just tell stories, and I would just sit there and I'd say anything. I would just soak it up, anything that she would be willing to share or give. That was a huge influence on my language abilities as time went on. Just before I finished up my bachelor's degree, I had a kind of a crossroads where it was going to the master's program or pack it up and go get a job, because I had been poor for such a long time at that point that I really needed to go make some money, if I'm being honest. So that was the decision that was made. But it was around that time too that I started Aloha, so the bird that you see on top of my head, and I came across an old proverb that kind of touched me, which was He alala he manuleo nui, which was said to kind of tease people that had loud and they were very boisterous, as they say. And I took it as a different meaning of, no matter where the alala is in your vicinity, you're going to hear them, whether you like it or not. And so it was a kind of a way to encourage learners and teachers of the language to be vocal and to not be ashamed to use the language. Yeah, it's been pretty surreal to reflect on my story today, and I just wanted to give a mahalo kaupoe kumaha paurua, kapoe I koko me ia, kapoe ho aloha ke kahi, no ka ho'oi ke ka ana me ia, koko ana me, ka paipai ana me ia, ka ao ana ke olelo, mina no o I ke olelo. It's been completely worth my time to learn the language. I don't think I've ever regretted it, and I really appreciate all of my teachers and friends and mentors, everybody that's been a part of my own learning of the language. My wife and I wanted to have Hawaiian be the language of our home, and we started learning 8 years ago, 2016. Our oldest is 7 years old, and we've been committed to that. We've only spoken Hawaiian to her and our 2 sons. And yeah, I've been 100% worth it. Very difficult, can't get around that, but I wouldn't change anything. As time went on, I had a lot of people ask me questions because I started to get more proficient and better in the language. And so I had friends and family, and I also had ka'alala, and I was out more in the public and people were asking me questions. And so I actually began to make courses, and that's why I have 2 online courses now, and I do tutoring online to help people on their way. I'm essentially providing things that I was looking for. I wish there was an online course that I could have taken that was affordable, and I wish I could have gotten some tutoring from somebody because I wasn't on island at the time. My first 9 months of learning was off island. So I really just tried to fill in the gaps and provide things that I think people want, because those are things that I wanted and things that I needed. So at whatever point you are, whether you've been learning the language for 20 years, 1 year, or maybe you haven't started yet, it's not something I have ever regretted, and you still have time. And make sure you make learning fun, because this is one of the most invaluable things that you can learn about your culture if you're native Hawaiian, and if you're not and you want to learn more about this place, no better way but to start with the language. So thank you all for spending some time with me today. I'll catch you guys next time.